Hey guys, I am Foxtrot Delta, and welcome back, finally, to some more Space Engineers. It's been quite a while since I recorded anything from Space Engineers, but I finally built a new ship. I have not published it to the workshop yet, and come to think of it, I haven't completely finished my old ship either, the Cascade-class destroyer that was Star Trek-themed. I still have to adjust that at some point, but I got in a creative mood and decided to build something else that I think will work more or less in survival as well as creative mode of Space Engineers. If not, it's pretty darn close. I think it looks pretty cool. Let me introduce to you this ship, which I will publish to the workshop soon, whenever I get around to it, and by tomorrow there should be a link in the description to it if you want to check it out for yourselves. This is the J-1 gravity drive, experimental gravity drive freighter. This thing, I built it in a few hours, and I'm still tinkering it together and adding things and taking things, well, mostly just adding things. And what it is a cargo vessel. Because I don't really like to engage in combat in Space Engineers. I like to just sort of do my own thing with various missions that I create for myself, and I think this thing will get the job done perfectly. And let me turn this on. So it's called a prototype gravity drive freighter, and what that means is that it uses a unique, not very unique, many people have done it, but a unique, compared to thrusters anyway, method of propulsion when moving in the vacuum of space. So we have well, first of all, let me just show you what this thing looks like on the outside. We have 4 large hydrogen thrusters providing thrust upwards so the thing does not fall. So it can land on planets. We also have 4 huge landing legs that are on pistons that come down. These ones are at a higher elevation initially than these ones, but that's compensated for when they deploy. We have hydrogen tanks slung underneath, attached to a turret. Don't ask me how the turret gets the ammunition through a hydrogen tank. I'm not entirely certain, but I do know that it's all connected up through a conveyor system, so in theory it should be able to get its ammunition if there's ammunition in the system. So let's just say that that's how it works. Maybe the ammunition belts are fed around the hydrogen tank somehow. Anyway, we have a hydrogen tank. We have a hydrogen/oxygen generator right here on the side that's powering everything on this section, as well as underneath as well, I think. I only have 2. I have 1 hydrogen generator on that side and on the other. This thing is a mirror image on both sides. We have our navigation lights blinking. The cycle is 4 seconds. I think they're 75% on or 70% on and 30% off or something like that. We have ion thrusters, no atmospheric thrusters. We have conveyor tubes all over the place, connecting all of the systems. So it actually does use a conveyor system. It's not just you slap a block on and it magically works. It needs to be fed from something. At least it should be. In creative mode, you don't actually have to have everything connected to function. You can have just random H2 generators attached to thrusters everywhere, but I thought if it's one system, everything can be fueled from the same spot. It'll be nice and easy to maintain. We have thrusters up top, we have antennae. We have a jump drive you can see down there for when we're too lazy to use our gravity drive. We have a regular jump drive, and underneath we have a connector. Now, the front of this is pretty darn cool looking. We have thrusters under there. We have 2 gigantic spotlights that are attached to the artificial mass block housings, which you guys may not know what that means, but it sounds cool, so I said it. We have the bridge, nice red light. Let's go inside, shall we? I know you guys are interested in the giant blue glowy things on either side of the vessel, but we'll save that for a few more seconds in. Go our airlock. First, we come to main engineering, or the only engineering. I never ended up rotating this jump drive. I might do that, because the control panel for it's way up here. Not that you need it, because you can access any panel from anywhere in the ship. You can go here. I could just type in jump drive, and boom! You can access your jump drive from right there, all of the distances you want to set, whatever coordinates. Also, we can turn it on and off from this button right here. Why we would ever want to do that, I don't know. But I wanted to fill this panel up with something, so I did. We have engine room lights. The nice soft glow can be turned on and off, or off and on. We have the reactors, which I'm not going to turn off, because then the ship would fall, because I have yet to install any batteries, if I'm going to at all. I'm not sure if I will, because I don't want the weight of this thing to be thrown off. because balancing the weight and the amount of thrusters to keep this thing somewhat maneuverable is kind of difficult. Because if I had too many thrusters, well, I need places to put them. And as you guys saw on the outside, there isn't that much space for stuff. Now, the top is the exception to the rule. The top of this ship has some room, so perhaps I could install some other thrusters up there. And we have ship's gravity, which I can turn on and off, but since we're on the planet, there's nothing to worry about there. We have some LCD panels that do not say anything as of yet, because I do not know how to customize LCD panels yet, but I will learn and I will change those and update that accordingly. We have a med bay, control seat, gravity generator there, gravity generator hidden behind that med bay, and back here we have 2 cryopods. So that this ship would be typically crewed by, well, about 1 or 2 people, maybe a third if you want to rotate the cryopods. Take turns sleeping. Now here is the main section. We have a small passenger area as well as a cargo section. Now these cargo containers continue forward actually. They connect this section of the vessel to the bridge. But I just have them covered up with armored blocks because then you wouldn't have a little entrance here. So we have passenger seats. You can sit, obviously. Cargo containers. We have our air vents. Also, if I go back into engineering, not engineering, that's the bridge. That's probably the least cool part of the ship. Engineering. You can see we also have air vents up there connected to the reactors, which are connected to the conveyors, which are connected to the H2 generators, which are connected to the cargo section. Everything is linked. Somehow, everything is linked. Now, up here is the bridge. Everything is a little askew, I apologize for that. The thing is not quite flat. There we go. That was bugging me a lot. Actually, it's still not quite right. I have a lot of gyros in this thing, so every movement is really sensitive as far as the maneuvers go. So yeah, that is the bridge. There's not much to see in here. We have the flight seat, a nice section of windows. You can fall down and get kind of stuck. We have 2 LCD screens, a couple of red lights, kind of like on a submarine. And you can control it from right here. If we look outside, these on the sides right here, these, well actually, let me go into spectator mode. Maybe? Yeah. Okay. We're spectating. That's the F8 button, by the way. Here we go. So these are the gravity drive. They're not the gravity drive. What a gravity drive is, well, let me show you. I'll explain what those are once I get up into space, and to do that I'll go up here, control space, my character should be spawned in, go back to J-1 experimental gravity drive. I also made another cargo ship, but it's not nearly as detailed as this one, although it does have a detachable cargo module, which is pretty cool. So, in this game there are things called artificial mass blocks, and they were created way before planets existed. And it was so if you had like a rover or something that you built and you wanted it to actually roll on surfaces and do things that, vehicles would normally do on a surface with gravity, you would attach those blocks to it, turn on your artificial gravity, and these blocks are attracted to the artificial gravity fields. No other block in the ship is like that. Now, of course, the whole thing is affected by planetary gravity fields, but not by artificial. Now, if we turn on... Well, actually, if we look outside, I'm actually going to go outside with my character, and I'm going to explain to you how this works. So what I've done is I've set up a whole array... of gravity field generators on these pylons out here, these nacelles. What they do is they direct a field forwards, or you can reverse the field acceleration, direct it backwards, whichever way you want. And I have, I believe, what, 8 per section? Let's see. Yeah. And I did it kind of asymmetrically with them on the inside of this hub here, and then on the back of this one. I'm not really sure why I did that. Now that I'm looking at it, it looks kind of silly. But at the same time, I like the look from the back, and you can see the gravity generators right there when they turn on and they're going. It looks really cool. So I might just leave that the way it is. Plus, I can have these lights on the inside that'll spin, because these are on rotors. This whole thing spins. It looks really cool. So these direct a gravity field forwards, an artificial gravity field forwards. I turn off the regular ship's gravity, and then I turn on these artificial mass blocks of these housings here, and so it'll pull the ship forward. Now, the key to getting this thing to work in a somewhat efficient manner is to have the thing sort of well balanced. You want the center of mass pretty close to where these artificial mass blocks are going to be. Otherwise, it'll pull the blocks, and the center of mass will want the ship to start rotating, and I have encountered that problem. Despite my efforts, this thing does have a certain amount of torque on it when I accelerate at high settings, but I think I should show it to you. Now, it doesn't really do that much for the game, for the regular game as it stands, unless you have a speed mod on, because the game's max speed for a ship is like 104 meters per second or something like that. But if you're in a server, or if you have a mod downloaded that increases the maximum speed for ships, this thing can really accelerate very, very quickly. So just to illustrate what I'm going to do here, I'm going to... Actually, first let me show you what the landing gear looks like. That's pretty cool. Look at that. They come down, they do landing gear stuff. Quick note though, if you're going to land on a planet with this, I strongly suggest not turning off the inertial dampeners, okay, until you have the gear locked down where you want them to be. Otherwise, the thing will start to shift, and it'll break the landing gear. This thing is pretty heavy. So, that's that. As long as you are locked down and then disengage the thrusters, you should be fine. Even on the alien planet, which has a gravity of like 1.1, I think 1.2, I can't remember, I think it's 1.1. So, we have that, we have our spotlights, and the gravity drives themselves are right here. So, our first step in getting this thing to go is to turn off the ship's gravity. That's button number 1. And for cool effect, start the rotors going. That's button number 2. So now we have this nice rotating experimental drive thing happening. Now we turn off the rear thrusters. And if we were going backwards as our primary method of transportation, I suppose we'd have a button to turn off the forward ones, but there's no need for that. So I turn off the rear thrusters just to make sure that the inertial dampeners can stay on and keep us from going up and down and left and right. But we don't want to have this thing fighting against itself to go forward, so we turn those off. Next, we engage the gravity drive field generators on these nacelles. That's button number 4. You can see they turn green, and it starts to look pretty neat. And if we want, we can hit buttons 5 and 6 to increase the speed or decrease, or not speed, but increase the acceleration or decrease the acceleration of the gravity that they're projecting. I'm not going to bother with that just yet, because I think by default I have it set to a really, really low setting. That's why it says 0. If I turn on 7, and oh geez, I forgot about that part. If I turn on button 7, you can see the gyroscopes are now turned yellow. This locks them in position, because I'm trying to account for that torque issue, as far as the center of mass being slightly off. It's actually, the center of mass is a little bit too low on this thing. I've tried adding more stuff up top, but it doesn't quite compensate. So we have these gyroscopes here, we lock in position to keep this thing going somewhat straight. If we need to, we can always turn them off and adjust manually, then turn them back on. This thing is really made just to get between, like, stations or a planet and a moon. But it's not made for precision, you know, speed flying. Just to get you in the general vicinity so that you can then disengage and use your thrusters to maneuver. So, it's still experimental. It's a prototype. Cut me some slack. It's still a learning process. And now we hit button number 8. And we should be moving. Let me just check my camera here. Oh boy, this is fast. There we go. Very, very slowly. I believe they're set to 0.01 meters per second squared. So it is moving. I am not pressing W. As a matter of fact, if I wanted to, I could turn the forward thrusters off. Okay? And then we can go back and hit the 5 button. We're increasing speed. Now I'm gonna turn them back on because there's no point in having them off. I'll need them eventually. Yeah, now we're at the max service speed. And it doesn't look like it's tipping down, but if I increase to maximum acceleration, you can see it slowly starts to shift. And it's not that apparent here, but with servers with no speed cap, it is pretty obvious that this thing likes to tilt down. If I turn off button number 7, you can clearly see it's going to move. That being said, if you're accelerating at like, I don't know, 2, 3, and 4, meters per second squared. It shouldn't be that much of an issue. Plus, if you want to slow down really quickly, you just pull it all the way back, turn off the artificial gravity for the drives, turn off the artificial mass blocks. I'll reset these back to 0. Turn that off, turn these on. Now the rear thrusters are on again, and if I wanted to, I could have turned the rear thrusters on and then disengaged the drives, or put them in reverse to use both the thrusters and the drives to slow me down. Turn off the rotors and on the regular ship's gravity, and now we can walk around again. It's pretty neat. It is pretty cool. And you can walk around while this thing is moving, too. You can just get this thing up to whatever speed you want, turn off the gravity for the drives, turn back on ship gravity, and turn off the mass blocks, and you can walk around cruising at 1,000 meters per second or whatever you want. So it is very, very cool. Also, one thing that I can do is... Oh. That's an interesting audio sound. One thing I can do is I'm going to turn this on. I'm going to turn back on the drives. There we go. Let's say there's some sort of emergency and you can't get... I don't know. There's some sort of emergency where you can't disengage the drives and they're stuck on. What you can do is you can actually go drive rotors. You can detach the drive rotors. And then you can slow down. And yeah, look at that. Of course, now you don't have any drive to slow down with, but there you go. So if there's an emergency, you can detach the rotors. And I was thinking about making that a button, like an emergency detach button, but I don't really see the point, because you really can always get to a control panel. So let me delete everything here. And I want to show you the landing procedure for this. It is a lot of fun. Oh, I heard noises because I'm deleting everything. Okay, let me go to the moon. How about that? Because that'll just look cool. Moon is over here. Let's get to the dark side of the moon because this thing has lights, and lights are fun. Let's grab the actual craft. Nope, that's not what I wanted to do. Come on. The J-1 experimental gravity drive. It's named J-1 because it has one jump drive. I made another transport before. I named it the J-7 cargo transport because it had 7 jump drives. That thing's pretty cool, but nowhere near as neat as this. Now, one thing you may be thinking is, geez, this thing is very exposed on the outside with all that sensitive equipment. Like I said, it's not a combat vessel, it's an experimental transport, so everything is pretty exposed and pretty light, and it's just made to carry goods and test the engines out. It's not made for combat, despite the fact that it has 4 turrets on it. And it's because it's not made for combat that it only has 4 turrets on it. They're just made for... They're there as a deterrent to anyone who wants to mess with you. Okay. Turning off inertial dampeners. Alright. We're going down. Now, on the moon, it probably isn't so vital as far as the gear snapping because it's only 0.25 gravity, I think. But I still would recommend leaving the dampeners on before you've locked down the landing gear. Okay, lowering. Gonna turn those off. Turn the auto lock off on the gear so they don't immediately attach to stuff. Although you could leave them on, it wouldn't hurt, but I prefer to get a solid grip with all the landing gear I can and then attach and then disengage thrusters. Let's try to maneuver around this mountain. Buttons 8 and 9 are for the connector in the back. So if you have, I don't know, a small fighter or something you want to shove on there, not only could they attach to the roof in the front, but they could attach to the back. Or if you're docking at a station, they have a connector that's on a piston. It could connect to the underbelly of this thing, which is pretty. It's a pretty good spot, I think. It looks very cool. Okay, we're nearing the surface. Not sure how level we are. Okay, those are about as good as they're gonna get. Attaching. Turning off those. Turning off the thrusters. And turning off the lights. And turning off the drive lights. There we go. We have landed the experimental prototype gravity drive freighter on the surface of the moon. I think that's pretty cool. This thing doesn't look that big on the inside, but on the outside, you get right next to one of these landing gear, and wow, you can really see the size comparison. This thing is like 3 times, no, maybe 2 times my height. Just that one landing gear, not to mention the entire piston for it. So yeah, that is the J-1 Experimental Gravity Drive Freighter. I will publish this to the workshop. I think it's pretty cool. It's not Star Trek themed, but it's something that I worked on because I saw that gravity drives were a thing. And I knew instantly that I had to learn to make one. And I think I really outdid myself with this ship. It looks so cool. And it seems somewhat practical as far as, like, you could have people on this in survival, I think. We have refineries built in. We have 2 refineries on the sides. There's one over here. There's one over there. I don't believe I have, like, a cargo ejector block to drop stuff, but that could always be worked in if needed. So yeah, I had a lot of fun building this. It's a lot of fun to fly around. I use it in multiplayer servers whenever I can. And I will be sure to link it in this description where hopefully you guys will want to check it out. If not, I understand that. This channel is mostly Star Trek Legacy, but this was just one of those things that I really, really enjoyed putting together. So let me turn the drive lights back on. And heck, maybe even the spotlights too, just to get the full effect of what this thing looks like when it's landed. That's just so cool. It's so neat. So, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video of Space Engineers. I enjoyed making it. It was a lot of fun. If you guys did enjoy it, then please be sure to leave the video a like. And if you are not subscribed and you want to see more, well then please subscribe, because I do plan to record more Space Engineers in the future. If for whatever reason, however, you guys did not enjoy the video, I do understand that, and I apologize. And I ask that you leave a comment in the comment section, and let me know what it is that I can do to improve the next videos that I produce, so that hopefully you guys will find some entertainment when watching them. And yeah, Space Engineers, what a fantastic game. I will also have the Steam page to Space Engineers linked in the description down below if you want to check the game out for yourself. And yeah, I hope that you guys are having a fantastic day. As always, I am Foxtrot Delta, and I will see you next time.